When you think of American crime, there's this one name that just sends a chill down your spine. H. Holmes. You know, he's often called America's first serial killer, the guy who built the infamous murder castle. But what we're digging into today isn't just about the crimes themselves. It's about his final, and maybe his most twisted creation, a story. A story he wrote to try and convince the entire world that he was the real victim.
So, our source material for this whole deep dive isn't some historian's book or a detective's case file. No, we're going straight to the source. We're looking at the killer's own words, from his autobiography, Holmes' own story. Just think about that. This was his personal plea to the public, a carefully constructed defense, written by the very man accused of these unspeakable things. And you have to understand the circumstances here, because they were just wild. Imagine it. You are locked in a prison cell. You are facing the death penalty. Your own lawyers are practically begging you, just stay quiet, don't say a word. But what does Holmes do? He picks up a pen. He wrote this entire book against the direct advice of his own legal counsel. He was literally betting everything on one thing, his own ability to manipulate not just a jury, but the entire country. And that really puts us at this fascinating crossroads, doesn't it? Are we about to read the heartfelt words of a man who was totally misunderstood, just railroaded by a press that was out for blood? Or are we about to witness the ultimate con, the final, most elaborate trap set by a complete master of manipulation? Okay, let's dive into this, and let's see just how he tries to build his case.
You know, any good story needs a hero you can root for, a protagonist you feel for, and Holmes knew that better than anyone. So the first part of his book, it's got nothing to do with Chicago, nothing to do with the crimes he's accused of. It is all a very carefully painted picture of his own childhood, and it's all designed for one purpose, to make you trust him. He starts with this personal invitation. Come with me, he says. He's literally pulling us into this perfect, idyllic scene. A quiet little New England village full of good, God-fearing people and loving parents. He wants us to see him not as H. Holmes the monster from the headlines, but as Herman Mudgett, just a normal kid from the country.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, where you see the twisting begin. He tells this story about being a kid, being dragged, struggling, and shrieking into a doctor's office by older kids and forced to face a human skeleton. I mean, for any child, that's pure terror. But look at how he spins it. He doesn't frame it as this awful, traumatic event. Oh no, he calls it an, quote, heroic method of treatment. He claims that moment is what cured his fears and, get this, inspired him to become a doctor. He's taking something that looks like the origin of a really dark obsession and turning it into this positive character-building moment. It's brilliant in a terrifying way. And that just makes you stop and think, right? Is he really telling us the story of a brave little boy who conquered his fears? Or is he, maybe without even realizing it, showing us the exact moment when a child's natural fear of death got erased and replaced with something else, something cold and clinical and curious? And notice this. He's smart enough not to paint himself as a perfect angel. He admits to all these little childhood sins. He lies about how many cows his family has and gets a whipping. He gets ripped off buying a fake watch. He works for a shady company. See what he's doing? These aren't the confessions of some monster. They're relatable. There are these almost charming little stories of a boy just learning that the world can be tough. He's building a character that we're supposed to see as, you know, a little flawed, sure, but fundamentally normal. But then he drops his line, and it is absolutely chilling. After telling some story about not getting paid for pulling weeds, he says this experience influenced him later in life to make my conscience become blind. Whoa. He is basically arguing that his much more serious crimes later on were born from these tiny childhood injustices. It is such a subtle but masterful way of absolving himself of all responsibility. And just like that, with this one simple sentence, he closes the chapter on his innocent origin story and pivots to the place where the legend of H. Holmes would be born. The whole tone shifts. That peaceful New England village is long gone. We've arrived in Chicago. Okay, so now we have to talk about the murder castle itself. Because while Holmes was out there crafting this public image of a hardworking, down-on-his-luck businessman, he was building something else entirely, something truly monstrous. This is the reality of that building in Chicago. While his book is going on and on about financial troubles, the actual blueprints tell a completely different story. We're talking soundproof vaults so no one could hear the screams, gas pipes that he could control from his office and feed directly into guest rooms, trapdoors and secret passages so he could move bodies around without being seen. a full-on dissection table on the basement, and a kiln big enough to cremate a human body. This just shows you the terrifying canyon between the story he told and the things he actually did.
So how does Holmes explain this labyrinth of horrors in his own book? Well, he doesn't. He talks about money problems. He writes, "Here my real troubles commenced," and then blames it all on a greedy landlord and business expenses that forced him deeply in debt. In his version of the story, the castle isn't a factory of death. It's just a bad investment, another heavy cross for our poor, long-suffering hero to bear.
So, the climax of Holmes's whole story, really the absolute cornerstone of his defense, is all about the death of his business partner, Benjamin Peitzel. It was Peitzel's death that finally got him caught, so Holmes spends a massive part of his book trying to explain it all away. Okay, so this part is fascinating because his story just completely falls apart the second you look at it closely. Holmes claims he just found Pitzel dead, a suicide. He describes this ridiculously complicated chloroform device and, of course, a super convenient note. But every single detail just brings up more questions. Why build such a bizarre device to kill yourself? If it was just a simple suicide, why on earth wouldn't you just call the police? But the biggest flaw, the one that makes no sense, is his claim that Pitzel killed himself but wanted Holmes to make it look like an accident for the insurance money. Think about it. The entire point of an insurance scam is that the person doesn't actually die. It's a lie that literally contradicts itself. When you finally take a step back and you look at this entire book, from the innocent little boy story all the way to this convoluted mess about Pitzel's death, you see it for what it truly is. It's not a defense, it's a symptom. It's the final, grand performance of a mind that is just profoundly disordered.
What Holmes was doing in his book is a textbook case of pathological lying. See, for a psychopath, lies aren't just something you do to get out of trouble. They are a tool. They're how you shape reality, how you control the story, how you prop up your own sense of being better than everyone else. The actual truth, it's completely irrelevant. The only thing that matters is the performance, and whether or not the audience buys it. And that brings us right back to where he started, in his preface. Just listen to these words again. He's not a murderer, he's been vilified. The murders aren't real, they're imaginary crimes. His victims aren't dead and gone. His friends have just been alienated. In his final performance, H.H. Holmes casts himself in the role he always loved best, the true victim, a man whose only real crime was being misunderstood by a cruel, unfair world. In the end, this book is just as much a trap as his hotel ever was. It's a maze built out of words, full of twisting hallways and hidden rooms and dead ends, all of it designed to confuse you, to trap you. It is a place where he tried to murder the truth itself. And the most chilling question that leaves us with is this. In an age before DNA and modern forensics, how close did this master manipulator actually come to succeeding?